have the phenomenon that many of the Gazans are considered by Israel illegal sojourners. As if they were illegal workers in a foreign country, so-called illegal. So there are Gazans. Just a week ago, a student in Bethlehem who studied in the West Bank since 2005 was captured and sent by soldiers back to Gaza in the middle of her studies. She could not continue her studies in Bethlehem. And many others cannot leave. And this is another fact. So Israel controls this, also this change of address, and does not allow Gazans to move to the West Bank. Another way to start this is to tell about all the soldiers, or at least all the units and officers. When they invaded Gaza, they have detailed maps of every single neighborhood that they were in. Every single neighborhood, every area that they bombed or invaded, they have the aerial photograph and regular map in their hands. If they match the population, what's written in the population registry, and the maps, they can know exactly which house is inhabited by what family. And then know all the history of every family, including where they were born in before 48. They know that it is, if there are orchards between the houses, or greenhouses, or chicken pens, or things like that. They know every detail. This information, which altogether constitutes what Gaza is, actually a huge panopticon, maybe the ultimate panopticon that we can think about, is gathered either by drones, photographing drones that zoom all the time, hum all the time above Gaza. There are balloons which photograph, balloons with cameras which keep recording. There are all those invasions which produce more information. There is a lot of information which is gathered by Shabak, by intelligence officers, when they take people to, when people want to leave for ask for a permit, so they have to see intelligence agents before, and they give this information, and the unknown number of collaborators, official and non-official collaborators that supply this information. So when we think about Gaza, we think about panopticon. We think about a closed place that Israel controls every exit and entry to it, and knows every detail. Israeli soldiers can know, they have access to every detail about every person. So me, for example, when I, as a journalist, asked the spokesperson, the military spokesperson, to tell me why this house was bombed or why this factory was erased to the ground, they evaded from answering directly by saying, we need the GPS of this place. It's crazy, because if they just type the name of the person, they will have all the information. This was a way to evade. They have everything. People shy at really debating the facts, that nothing of this armed struggle that was used, was taken since 2000 and adopted by Hamas before the onslaught, I mean until the Tahdiyah, that this brought to anything, this stopped Israeli plans and Israeli policies. Not in terms of settlements expansion, not in terms of fragmenting the Palestinian territory. I mean, the armed struggle of the Second Intifada did not stop the fragmentation, only enhanced it, the fragmentation. The disconnection of Gaza from the West Bank. The permanent weakening of a Palestinian leadership. The successful way that Israel disconnects itself from its obligations as an occupying power. More than that, what I discovered when I was in Gaza, what was clear, is that this onslaught, it looked like, when I entered the first impression was that this was a huge playing ground for the soldiers. But playing ground, or you would say training ground, but with live ammunition. You see, more and more the being there and talking to people, you get the impression that this was, if I compare, a war of, excuse the politically incorrect language, Red Indians fighting weapons from science fiction films. That's how it looks to me. And there is no way that Israel did not know that the Qassams and what the Palestinians, what Hamas has, does not endanger strategically, and does not endanger the Israeli kibbutzim and towns near Gaza. It may. There are other solutions, other ways to stop it than having such an onslaught. Between 2000 till 2006 and 2007, the Israeli restrictions on movement pushed West Bank and Gaza economy to such lows that it is not difficult to get up a bit. So we are still far from the levels of 99, which were, if I remember correctly, have not reached the levels of 89. In 89, when there were no restrictions on movement on Palestinians, and many worked in Israel, it was still already the Intifada, there was more individual, not as a unit, but individually, more Palestinians could provide for themselves without falling into charity. What the Oslo process developed because it is under the umbrella of a closure system and a restrictions on movement regime, the permit regime, so it made more Palestinians dependent on charity than ever before. I mean, than between 67 to 91. I became a big advocate of the occupation of between 67 to 91, when there was freedom of movement, because it empowered the Palestinian people in things that then we did not see, but we see them today. It was Palestinians could, for the first time since 48, Palestinians lived together within the same borders and under the same government, through an occupying government, but they had the same experience. True, some citizens, some not citizens, but they had similar experiences. They exchanged thoughts, expertise, they worked together, they studied together, they met, they reunited, families reunited. So it was also together with the opportunities, work opportunities, that indeed they were cheap labor force for Israel, but people had the opportunity to provide for themselves in ways that they did not have after 48. And did not have after 91, 94. The process of making the entire Palestinian people into beggars is one of the most difficult psychological attacks that every Palestinian feels. In Gaza, it's the extreme. In Gaza, Israel does not allow, this is the main thing, Israel does not allow Gaza to produce. People are not producing. People get the food like prison. You get the food in prison. In prisons, people still work and get some raw material to I don't know, to do things. There they don't even get the raw material.